All right, let's talk about something we've all felt. You know that confusing, sinking feeling when you realize someone just doesn't like you, and you have absolutely no idea why? Well, today we're going to dig into the hidden roots of that exact feeling.
I mean, seriously, has this happened to you? You meet someone new, you're being polite, you're friendly, you're acting totally normal, but you just get this cold, unwelcoming vibe back. It's so confusing, right? And honestly, it's more than a little unsettling. And maybe the worst part is when you replay the whole thing in your head, right? And you know you did everything right. You were kind, you were respectful, you didn't say or do anything remotely offensive. And yet something is just clearly off.
So, this is what we're calling the cold shoulder mystery. And it feels so personal, doesn't it? Like it's a direct judgment on who you are. But here's the thing. The real solution to this mystery, it often has very, very little to do with you at all. So if it's not about something we did, then what in the world is actually happening in the other person's mind? Okay, let's put on our detective hats because we're about to investigate the real cause.
Okay, to solve this thing, we need to uncover some hidden psychological roots. You can think of these as the crucial clues, right? They're what's going to help us piece together what's really happening way down beneath the surface.
Okay, our first major clue is a concept from psychology called transference. And put simply, it's basically when someone's brain just gets its wires crossed. They aren't actually reacting to you, the person standing right in front of them. No, they're reacting to a ghost from their past that you, for some totally random reason, remind them of.
And the trigger for this can be something surprisingly small. For example, let's say your new boss has a tone of voice that is just eerily similar to a teacher who made you feel small back in school. Without you even realizing it, your brain just reacts. You feel tense, you get defensive around them, and it has nothing to do with who they are, but everything to do with who they unconsciously represent. All right, our next clue is called projection. And this is another classic defense mechanism our minds use. Honestly, the best way to think of it is like an emotional game of hot potato. I have a feeling or a quality I really don't like about myself, so my brain, totally unconsciously, projects it or throws it onto someone else. And boom, just like that, they're the one with that negative trait, not me. Here's a perfect example of how this plays out in the real world. Imagine someone is deeply insecure about their competence at work. Then a new coworker starts who's really self-assured, really capable. Well, that insecurity gets triggered big time. But instead of dealing with it, their brain projects it outward. And all of a sudden, that confident coworker is seen as arrogant or a total show-off. So it's really important to get the difference between these two because it can be a little tricky. Here's the bottom line. Projection is about my own feelings being put onto you, but transference, that's about my feelings for someone else from my past being redirected onto you. One's a defense mechanism, the other is all about past relationships. But the key? Both of them happen totally unconsciously. All right, our final set of clues comes from the world of cognitive biases. Now, these are basically just mental shortcuts our brains take all day, every day to process information quickly. And yeah, they're efficient, but boy, can they lead to some seriously flawed and totally unfair judgments about other people. A classic example of this is something called the horns effect. So let's say someone's very first impression of you is a negative one, and it could be for some tiny random reason. Maybe you just remind them of their ex, or you just happen to be standing there when they got bad news on their phone. Well, their brain will then unconsciously start looking for evidence to confirm that bad feeling. From that moment on, pretty much everything you do is seen through this negative filter. Okay, so we've gathered our clues, right? We have transference, we have projection, and we have cognitive biases. Now it's time to solve the mystery. And the big reveal, the central truth you absolutely have to grasp, is this. It's not you, it's them. Let's just walk through the process, step by step. First, something about you, who knows what, acts as a subconscious trigger. Second, that trigger activates some old unresolved emotion deep inside of them. And finally, that old feeling gets projected or transferred completely unfairly onto you. You've basically just walked onto the stage of a play that started long, long before you ever showed up. And that really is the absolute bottom line here. You've unknowingly become a character in their story, a story that has absolutely nothing to do with yours. You know, there's this quote that just nails this idea perfectly. It says that unwarranted dislike is often a mirror reflecting the other person's inner world, not a window into your character. Think about that. You're not looking through a window at some flaw in yourself. You're looking at a mirror, and it's reflecting their own stuff right back at them.
Okay, so understanding the why behind all this is super empowering, for sure. But the real question is, what do we do about it, right? So let's talk about how to actually navigate these tricky situations now that we have this new understanding.
The absolute key here is to shift your focus. Take it away from them and bring it back to you. First, and this is the most important part, you have to truly recognize this is not about you. Then, you have to stop wasting your precious time and energy trying to win them over. It's a game you literally cannot win because you don't even know the rules. Instead, just focus on your own consistent, respectful conduct. You get to choose where you invest your social energy, and trust me, this is not the place to invest it.
This leads to a really powerful idea for building up your emotional resilience. I want you to think of your self-worth like it's 100%. The goal? The goal is to have 90% of that come from inside you, from your own validation, your values, your actions. That only leaves this tiny 10% slice that can even be touched by what other people think. And when someone dislikes you for their own weird reasons, it barely even makes a dent. And that brings us to the final, and maybe most crucial takeaway. Think of your self-esteem like your own private museum. You are the curator. You, and only you, get to decide what hangs on the walls and what gets tossed in the storage closet. Do not outsource that incredibly important job to anyone else, especially not to someone who's busy fighting ghosts from their own past. So, I'll leave you with this one last thought to carry with you. When all is said and done, when you look in the mirror at the end of the day, whose judgment is the one that truly defines who you are?